All right, so let's talk about what's coming out later this week, which is, of course, not just the Fed meeting and Powell and the potential of the Fed lowering the interest rates about damn time, but it's also a question of how much longer does Powell have? I mean that because there was talks immediately from when Trump won the White House and took over again as president that, oh, we're going to find a replacement for Powell soon enough whenever his term runs out. Who's going to replace him? There were talks even last week about Scott Bessent being one of the candidates or a potential candidate at that. He's very bullish. Yeah, the market reacts well when he talks. So, what would happen if Powell gets replaced? What are some of the better sectors to watch when that happens, if that happens sooner than later? Can you imagine if the Fed leaves the rates unchanged coming up this Wednesday? I mean, I think it's very well priced in, or a matter of that, just to say, I think that a lot of people are expecting the Fed to finally lower the rate because they were expecting it lowered last Fed meeting. They're expecting it from the meeting before that, right? Can you imagine the smell within the market if Powell decides, one more time, unchanged? Oh my God. There would be, I think, big sell off because there's disappointment. However, that would only agitate Trump even more, right? If he leaves the rates unchanged even further. There's enough going on with Israel, Iran. There's people talking about Trump trying to get us into that. We're not talking about that here. But now to have Powell trying to go against him one more time, if he were to leave the rates unchanged, Trump would have a fit. He would be all over his Truth Social. And, I don't even know what nickname he'd come up with for Jerome Powell. But this is just where otherwise, at least, how would replacing Powell affect the stock market? I hope that we lower the rates. Obviously, I believe that we will. I think that there's like a 94% chance of the rates being lowered this Fed meeting coming up on Wednesday. But what would happen at least if Powell gets replaced? I think the rates would get lowered more and sooner first. So if there were to be someone like Bessent or anyone else that would be more bullish for the market, they would do what Trump would want done sooner. So lowering the rates. At least with that, stimulus measures, maybe quantitative easing, where they start printing money again. That's something I personally was telling our students about going into the last Fed meeting. I thought that there would be the end of, I think there would be an end as far as the tightening with the money. There would be a lot more promise to try and print new money into the market. So that means quantitative easing, injecting money. Now, otherwise, though, different sectors to keep a good eye on: real estate, utilities, financials. And the one that I wasn't as familiar with, at least if there were better real estate companies, real estate stocks to keep a good eye on, yes and no. I mean, a little bit here and there. So give me a quick moment. So for real estate, give me a quick second. Start off on consumer discretionary select tickers. So stocks like Amazon, Tesla, Home Depot, your big brand stocks, McDonald's, Nike, a lot of those larger, well-known blue chip stocks are the ones that will benefit pretty well to begin with. I mean, of course, we talked about this from last Traders Talk 1 week ago. A swing trade is first determined by trend. So for certain swing trades that we've called out recently, I mean, Palantir, easy to say, but it's been moving up perfectly. But it broke a higher high here. That's what led it to become a better trade again. Stocks like OKLO. So as long as the chart's showing higher low, higher high, that's one of the first things to focus on, at least with consumer discretionary. But otherwise, for real estate stocks, uh, what's an interesting one to begin with? This one is not one that you'd want to focus on because it's like a crappy chart, bad company. But what about Douglas Elliman? I feel like Douglas Elliman, for as much real estate as they own in New York City and Manhattan of all things, it would be funny to see this make a good squeeze up over time. They had an IPO last year, or I'm sorry, a few years ago, rather it was, but they tanked and they have not been doing well, making lower lows over time. Maybe this could be the beginning of something. So if Powell gets replaced sooner than later, who knows? Maybe certain real estate investment companies and companies like Douglas Elliman. There's actually a nice resistance here. This could be something to keep an eye on. What the hell? This just popped out of left field here. This is like a nice swing trade setup right now. Look at this. If we could break out of this consolidation, break out of this resistance here over time, $3.18 a share. Let's take a quick look on the float. I don't think this is a low float one as much. Yeah, it's about 83 million shares in the float. It could be higher, could be a hell of a lot lower. Real estate management and development company. So that could be something maybe to keep an eye on. It hasn't been for a long time, but who knows if there's a more bullish Fed chair that steps in and the real estate market as a whole makes a big pop. I'm going to make sure I remind myself of this. This is just a clean looking level. Volume came in from the other week, about a month ago. Definitely something to keep an eye on there. That's nice. So that's not making higher highs yet, but there's a good chance for that too. What else do we have? We have O, which is Realty Income Corp. Nice chart as far as the higher lows go, at least. It's just been in consolidation for a little while. I'm just going to do by intraday volume, just the ones that trade the most volume here. PLD, Prologis, Inc. Lower highs. I'm not a fan of that as much. So this one, not as great just yet. Kind of holding support, but the chart could be better. Same here. I mean, lower highs after a big fall off back from the end of 21 into 22. American Tower Corp, AMT. At least a better case of higher lows here, but still, a lot of these for right now seem to just be in strict consolidation, and not all of them trade good volume. So this will tie me back to a question that was sent in actually from earlier this morning regarding another sector. But as far as like if you're focused on a sector-based play, like here we are with the thought of Powell being replaced by a more bullish Fed chair, okay, utilities, okay, consumer discretionary, okay, real estate stocks. There are certain sectors that may do well, but not all of them are going to have good volume. Like this one, PSA, Public Storage. It's trading 328,000 shares total on the day. That's not something that we at CTU here would normally advocate to call out or trade, price aside. So not all of these have good volume. That's the issue. Now, the Douglas trade, Douglas Elliman, is pretty shitty volume today, about 188,000 total today. As far as the chart goes, though, you tell me, this looks like a better case of higher lows, but a potential higher high here compared to all the other real estate companies, at least. So that is one, Douglas, that we can keep an eye on. Now, the financial sector, that obviously JP Morgan, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Citigroup, Goldman Sachs. None of those are going to be like an out-of-the-box type of play. I mean, JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, I should say to begin, just beautiful move up just with the market over time. JP Morgan, very similar. All of these are going to have a very similar graph. The question is, are they making higher highs or not yet? Citigroup got crushed back from 2008. Looks like there's a better case for Citigroup over time to try and bust a higher high back from 2018, 2020. Has to likely make a move over $83, hold that as support. Wells Fargo looking pretty good. Wells Fargo, not a bad chart. JP Morgan, obviously a great chart. Bank of America doing a lot better than Citigroup is, coming off 28 crisis, but not really at that all-time high, just yet. Goldman Sachs, obviously.
Become a Cyber Group member today. Just click the link below and receive all these amazing products and a world of knowledge for just $9. Do it today.